So guys, today I want us to get into NetBeans and learn how to make Java desktop applications with a lot of ease. I want to avoid a lot of uh, theory, a lot of unnecessary codes that really do not make a very big impact when you're making a Java project, especially a GUI, that's a graphical user interface project. I was thinking that instead of us really going through line by line of code, we can easily use the swing object, the swing class rather, that is already built for you within NetBeans IDE, and then you are able to make a very good project, or a very good system, or a very good software for that matter, that can really serve your purpose. So what I'm going to do is to start a new project, and then now we shall be having the components of this project. We keep on improving the interface from one window interface to a multi-window interface. Of course, we are going to introduce menus, we are going to introduce navigation panels. So the first thing that you need to do, click on new project. You can go to file, new project, or just click this shortcut for the new project icon. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to choose Java with Ant. For the purpose of your understanding, I'm using Apache NetBeans, that is 18. Then of course I double click on the Java project. I'm going to give my project a name. Let's call it GUI 3. I'm saying GUI 3 because I have already uploaded a few projects within our channel, which I might not really remember exactly which number are we at right now. So I'm going to create I'm going to have our projects in a folder. Let me say tutorials. Let me call it tutorials, tutorials Java, so that now that becomes where we are going to save our projects. And then of course I click finish. Now, more often than not, whenever you create a new project within NetBeans creates for you the main class. So if I click on projects, of course I want to close these other projects, which maybe are my former projects. So I'm just going to select them, and then I click on close. Now what's going to happen is that Java automatically, or NetBeans automatically creates for you the main class, which is going to be bearing the same name as your project name. So GUI3.java becomes the main class that is created for us by NetBeans. So now you just click on the project tab, the tree of your project, and then under source packages, then of course your package itself, right click on it, and then you say new JFrame form. Once you say new JFrame form, we can call that maybe the welcome, or maybe let me call it max, because I want us to start somewhere. Then I click finish. We are going to create an interface that is going to enable somebody to enter marks of maybe, let's say, 5 subjects. Then when you click a button like for calculation, you are able to get maybe some total, average, grade. But of course we are going to move bit by bit. So in this tutorial, I only want you to know how to have different swing objects into your JFrame form. Now, under the palette, we have swing containers. This is where you start. You have to place a container within your JFrame, and then you now give it some controls. For the start, let's start by using panel. Sorry. So I click on panel, place it carefully on my JFrame. I'm going to resize it, and once you resize it, it keeps on resizing the JFrame automatically. Now once you place your panel, you can use a panel, you can use a scroll pen. Now allow me to just explain about the swing containers very fast, very quickly. Now for a panel is for a single window interface. For a tabbed pen is when you are creating an interface whereby it is toggling between different panels. So you click on one, it toggles and goes below the other one. You toggle this one, and that's what happens. A split panel is going to split your interface into 2 or more sections. A scroll pane, what happens with that scroll pane is that whenever your interface becomes bigger than your screen, then of course it gives a scroll bar, literally, which you can scroll vertically or horizontally. For the toolbar, of course, that's when you want to introduce something like a toolbar within your interface. For a desktop pane, this is the mother layout. The mother, we can say the mother window. If you were to create maybe an interface that has menus, maybe then we'll advise you go for a desktop pane. An internal frame, this is when you want to introduce very smaller sections of your project within it. We are going to look at it and see what happens. A layout pane the same way. This is where now your other containers, assuming you had a desktop pane that you had already declared here, and then now you want to have some internal frames that open within the desktop pane, then of course those internal frames should open in the layered pane. We're going to look at how that happens. Then the swing controls, of course, these are now the objects that you need to place within your interface. Can be a checkbox. A checkbox, of course, something that somebody has to tick. A label, we know what a label is. Literally, a label when you want to type something and then maybe to tell somebody if they were to enter maybe it's marks in a text field, then of course the label will describe on what is happening. On a pattern, of course, this is a submitting action, or once you want, when a button is clicked, of course it does some action. A radio pattern, we know, of course, this is when you select a pattern based on options. Assuming we have, like now for instance, gender. You see, for gender we have two main known gender. You can forgive me, I am told these days we have different kind of gender, but if it's male or female, you can just have a radio pattern and then you can click on one. Actually, the radio pattern is so much similar with a combo box and also even a checkbox, because for a combo box it's a drop down list. It's actually a drop down whereby you select, so you choose, is it male, female, in that order. Text field is where you can type something. Scroll bar is about scrolling. Progress bar, this when you want to see, maybe when you are loading something, and then of course you put a progress bar to show what is happening. For a spinner, it counts in terms of numbers in most cases. At a password field, it's what you are typing. We have swing menus. We have when you want to introduce a menu, of course you will start with a menu. You start with a menu bar, then you have a menu, and below every menu can be having different menu items. And of course you can introduce a checkbox within a menu, a pop-up menu. You can have a menu items or maybe a radio pattern. You can have a separator in terms of the menus. Swing windows, of course, we are going to look at, for instance, the file chooser. This is when you want to choose a file from, we want your interface to have an option whereby somebody can choose a file if you want to work with files. Color chooser, it's about choosing colors. Basically, there are quite a number of things that we are going to choose, or use rather, from even the Absolute window toolkit. And you guys allow me to tell you that the AWT, that's Absolute window toolkit, and Swing, they serve the same purpose, or maybe they are so much similar. But in this tutorial, we are going to concentrate on Swing, because Swing is easy, it's easy to use. It's just about drag and drop. The coding is pretty much easy, so I don't expect any of us to get stuck. But of course, when you get stuck, I'll be here and we will always fix what's supposed to be done. So guys, I just wanted to introduce you into the Swing, especially the Swing part of NetBeans, and how we can make our graphical user interface with a lot of ease without struggling, which makes our work pretty easy. Having said that, of course, I had dropped a panel here, maybe to show our starting point. Then now in our next tutorial, we are going to see which swing controls are we going to place on our panel. How do we activate, maybe if it's a text field, how do we activate the pattern here? How do we make that when the user clicks a button, something happens? And if there are any errors that are going to occur, how do we catch errors? Because again, in Java, we have got to go to try and catch this. When, if there is, for instance, if there is a field you expected a number, and then somebody does a text, or maybe somebody does a letter, instead of the system breaking down, it should catch that kind of error and then maybe throw an exception. Don't worry about the terminologies for now. As we proceed, we are going to see how we can always be maneuvering with what I'm saying. Catch you guys in the next tutorial. This is your guy Justus. See you next.